We have daughters that are 3 months apart.
Not a day goes by Nikki Carlson doesn't think about her younger sister, Laura.
Laura acting goofy.
Sifting through old photos, Laura smiling with her 7 children, celebrating life's simple moments.
She loved popcorn and movies, and birthdays and holidays were a huge ordeal.
Tears of joy quickly fading into tears of pain.
That's the one thing the most that I really regret, is not being able to tell her I'm sorry.
Remembering the weeks, even months leading up to Laura's death, the two weren't talking. Nikki sharing how Laura became different after the death of her daughter just 6 months before her own.
It just broke her heart. She just wasn't quite the same person anymore. You knew she was hurting, but she wouldn't let you in.
And she never would. On November 2nd, 2013, Laura left to meet someone and was never seen by her family again.
A woman's death in Rochester.
Laura's body was discovered in Walworth County, Wisconsin, 270 miles away from Rochester, where investigators say she was last seen at this hotel with Steven Zelich.
I couldn't tell my mom. I didn't want to be the one to tell her that Laura was gone. You know, hard enough for me to have to lose my sister, but to have to tell my mom that she lost her baby girl, I couldn't do it.
Zelich, a former Wisconsin police officer, now charged with first and second-degree murder in Laura's death. Her body and the body of 19-year-old Jenny Gamis were found in suitcases along a Wisconsin highway in June of 2014. In both cases, authorities say Zelich claimed the women died accidentally during sex. Zelich pleaded guilty in Gamis's death and was sentenced to 35 years in prison.
Every state is different.
In his 10 years as Olmsted County Attorney, Mark Ostrom says he's never seen a case like this.
We've been very open with them about the differences between Minnesota and Wisconsin law.
Because Zelich was arrested in Wisconsin, that case had to be prosecuted first. Fast forward to now, and the case for Laura's death is finally in motion in Minnesota, forcing all the raw emotions to come back for Nikki and her family.
It's been very hard on my parents, especially my mother. Nobody should ever have to lose a child, let alone lose one this way.
Our goal is to make sure that the victim from our case is not considered a second victim or any less of a victim, just because that case happens to go second. And so we're working very hard with the family to make sure that their voice is heard.
But Nikki is making a plea of her own.
I'm not happy that he was offered a plea bargain when they have such a solid case against this monster.
Ostrom confirms his office is working on an offer with Zelich's legal team, but wouldn't go into any of the details. However, Laura's sister says she's upset because if a plea deal is reached, the charge of first-degree murder could be taken off the table.
We found out later on, after they had already offered him the plea bargain, what it was. You know what? He did the crime. Why isn't he getting the time?
According to Minnesota sentencing guidelines, murder in the second degree and third degree could carry anything from 25 to 40 years in prison. A first-degree murder conviction is life in prison. But Ostrom tells us no agreement has been reached in this case.
We're not trying to avoid a trial. We're ready for the trial. The reality is probably 95% of cases don't go to trial because ultimately defendants understand that what they did was wrong and they admit it.
What if their case doesn't fall inside this equation and they feel like their concerns are not being heard or the justice that they are seeking is not being fulfilled?
There's no doubt that at some point the defendant's rights outweigh the victim's right. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments, they're all about defendants. They're not about victims. There is no amendment for the victim's rights. But we work really hard to make sure our victims are heard and to make sure that our victims get the best outcome we can for them.
This is their job. These are their guidelines. It fits in this box. We're the family. I lost my sister. Nothing will ever bring her back to me, but knowing that this man is being convicted of murder and is put away forever and ever will at least help me a little bit.
While nothing will ever bring Laura back, Nikki is not alone, befriending the sister of the other victim, Jenny Gamis.
And it has actually helped me through the healing process to know that there's another sister out there just like me.
As two sisters grieve and heal, they remember the precious moments in life and not death.
She did such a wonderful job raising those kids. They are just amazing. And, you know, I just really want them to know how much their mother really did love them.
If you could say anything to Laura right now.
That I miss her. I'm sorry I never got the chance to say it as much as I should have. and that I know she's still here. Sometimes I can feel her around me. Every now and then in the car, it's kind of funny because I think, oh my gosh, I should call her. Then I realize I can't. And so, I try to take that with me as far as, letting the people around me that I know I love them. And I truly miss her.